1-mile team time trial. Del Tongo Colnago dominates the day. Giuseppe Cerrone and his team used this time trial to take the overall lead, while Le Mans' La Viclaire team finished a distant 1 minute and 41 seconds behind. Did La Viclaire field the best team possible for the Tour of Italy, or did the Frenchman Hinault and coach Paul Coakley leave Le Mans to fend for himself? Only time will tell.
In one day, cyclists can spend upwards of 6 hours in the saddle. It's necessary to replenish the body with food and water without slowing down. Team support crews play an important role, preparing and delivering a well-balanced meal to go. With just over 3 miles left in the race, Roberto Visentini, cycling's Robert Redford, was in the lead. While Moser was back in the pack. Le Mans, in the front of the pack, never let Visentini out of his sights. And at the ultimo kilometro, it was Le Mans' turn to attack with a vengeance. The attack was so strong, it appeared the other racers were on stationary bicycles. The first win for the American, and it moved him from 33rd position to 15th overall. With 17 stages remaining, Le Mans was now within striking distance of the pink jersey.
I made up 1 minute and 20 seconds on Moser, plus 20-second bonus. It's a lot to be made up on Moser, so you know, maybe the race is changing for the good.
So Greg LeMond hopes that the good luck that followed him through stage 5 stays with him, and that the bad luck that befell him through the first few stages stays behind in Sicily. This is the Giro d'Italia, and we'll be back with more right after this. If Yankee Stadium is the house that Ruth built, then this area near Trento, about 200 miles north of Milano, is the valley that Francesco Moser built. To say that the man is a hero in this cycling-crazed country is to make a great understatement. All along the 22-day route of the Giro, his fans have scrawled signs encouraging him on the sides of mountains, on rocks, even on the roadway itself. Moser un dia, said one. Moser is God. In just about every town, from Ventimiglia to Mezzo Lombardo, there are Moser clubs where, assumedly, people gather to sing the praises of their hero. In Italy, Francesco Moser is a star. It's difficult to describe just how popular Moser is here in Italy. He is adored as no other, more than any sports personality, movie star, or public figure in the States, and probably in the world. Moser is idolized by the Italian public.
They bow, you know. Moser, Cerrone, those guys are God.
Just the Pope. Just the Pope.
The 35-year-old legend was raised on bicycle racing. Moser has scored over 40 major wins in Italy alone, including the 1984 Giro d'Italia. He is internationally known for his 3 wins in the prestigious Paris-Roubaix race, the 1977 World Championships, and for setting the world hour record in 1984.
Of course, the Giro d'Italia is the biggest competition in the world for Italian racers. It is the highlight of every season, and I would like to win it one more time.
As a cyclist, Greg LeMond excels riding in the mountains, using skills he learned and trained on in the western United States. But stage racing isn't just one kind of terrain, and to be great, you must perform well on a variety of landscapes. In the middle stages of the Giro, Greg LeMond encountered flat roadways, not exactly to his liking. As important as the Giro may be, there were unexpected obstacles that could halt the race. The army of support vehicles and riders finally made it past this obstruction and continued through the countryside. Visentini seized the opportunity to attack. With just over 1 mile to Cosenza, he made his move. While Visentini led the successful attack, LeMond, Cerrone, Moser, and a host of others were close enough to finish only 11 seconds behind the winner. For Visentini, a shallow victory. For Cerrone, he kept the pink jersey for now.
After traveling along the coast for the first 8 days, the course took a decided turn inland through Italy's heartland. For the riders, all that mattered was what was ahead, the mountains. For the first time, the trail led up. Only Mount Terminillo stood between the peloton and the ancient town of Rieti. While the mountain was high, the grade was gradual, so even the lesser disciplined riders finished with respectable times. The Portuguese rider, Acácio da Silva, one of the race's best mountain men, won the stage. Greg LeMond notched to fourth and was only 3 minutes, 27 seconds behind Cerrone. In this stage, the riders raced the clock. Out came the space-age bicycles and the aerodynamic suits. The time trial was the truest test in cycling. No team strategy, just the cyclist against the clock. For Greg LeMond, the stage could help him cut Cerrone's lead and bring him closer to the pink jersey. Concentration before the start. Did he prepare correctly? Would he beat the Italians? LeMond would take the course. It was all out for 28 3/4 miles. Cerrone was now on the course. LeMond had only less than 2 miles left before Siena, but wrong gearing slowed Greg during the final climb, a mistake in his gear selection. Meanwhile, Cerrone sped over the highway and posted the fastest time in the last 2.5 miles, the very section of the stage that had halted LeMond's chance for victory. To the sheer delight of the adoring Italian fans, Cerrone arrived in Siena still atop the Giro standings. LeMond, even with a disappointing time, moved into 8th place and crept closer to Cerrone, Visentini, and Moser. So things kind of starting to hit a leveling point for Greg LeMond and the La Vie Claire team. You know, we spoke about the fact that this is really a team sport, not an individual effort, that the individual is only as good as his team. We'll see how when we come back right after this.
The second time, the Giro would take the riders into Greg LeMond territory, the mountains. This is where the American could make up time. The Italians are not climbers. In this stage, Greg would surely outperform his adversaries. The Italians and their strategy? They knew of Greg's climbing ability, but you can't climb when you're locked in the pack. The Italians held him a virtual prisoner. LeMond could not break away.
The Italian fans helped the team strategy work. LeMond finishes the stage with his rivals turned captors. Never able to break away, Greg LeMond finishes 5th. More damaging, however, his inability to close the time gap.
Some guy went down in front of me, I went over him, hit and fell on my head.
He has not lost this Giro, and I think that's the important thing. It's now a whole week of hard racing, and everything can happen. We had some bad luck. Maybe the others someday have bad luck.
Constant innovation in this sport, as well as others, has allowed professional athletes to always improve. In cycling, the quest is for more speed and efficiency. The newest innovation in the sport is the look pedal system. Teams like La Vie Claire have tossed aside traditional toe clips in favor of a quick release, look, step-in pedal system.
It's a safety binding. If you crash or if you're in town or anything, you can get in and out of them real easily, but also it allows much more efficient pedaling because you're locked in for the pedaling motion, and you can use more muscles in your legs. It's much more efficient, and it's less painful. When you have toe clips and toe straps, you usually have to pull them so tight that it becomes very painful pedaling, especially in a 3-week race.
Just north of Milan lies one of the most impressive mountain ranges in the world, the Alps. They play host to ski resorts, castles, and unspoiled wilderness. But in this stage, the Alps serve to test the stamina of 170 of the world's best professional cyclists and the thousands of fans from surrounding areas. The Italian people's love and dedication for the sport is obvious. The ride in stage 16 should have been another key opportunity for the American Le Mans to control his own destiny. Le Mans was prepared. He climbed with ease, but things were different today. He found himself in the company of none other than Roberto Visentini. The other Italians, Moser and Cerrone, encountered nothing but pain and agony throughout the stage. Cerrone knew he needed help in order to keep the pink leader's jersey. His team let him down. While Le Mans and a small group kept the breakaway alive, Cerrone and Moser fell back 2 minutes. Meanwhile, the surprising Visentini, hot on the American's wheel, was slowed by a loose chain. With no mechanics in sight and only meters to the finish, there was no hope. Spain's Pedro Munoz, who hitched a ride on the breakaway, conserved enough energy to overtake Le Mans during the final sprint. He would win the stage, taking from Greg LeMond the victory necessary to propel him through the final stages. Visentini would now pull on the pink jersey. At the finish area, a very weary and a very tired Cerrone's disappointment was evident. After 16 grueling days, Visentini wore the pink jersey. Cerrone was second, Le Mans fourth.
Like football, cycling is a team sport, with everyone working together to get their star in for the score. Of course, there are the equipment men who work on the bikes, whether it is shine or, in this case, rain. But in cycling, the pulling guards are called domestiques, or here in Italy, gregari. They're allowed no personal glory. They are slaves to their duty, sacrificing everything for the team.
You could call it the slave role, really. Just work for the team, everything for the team.
That's the essential attitude if a professional bicycle team dreams of being successful. Every team consists of 3 levels of racers. The team leader, the one person who can win a race. The general classification rider, good enough to win a stage and finish high in the standings. The remainder of the team fills the slave role, or as the French say, domestique. But don't be fooled by the label. Their purpose is to sacrifice themselves for the star.
Let's say I become the leader of the race. They're there to control any attacks that go off the front. If the guy who's in second place attacks with 10 miles or 10 kilometers from the finish, it'll be up to my team to help pace and control that rider and bring him back.
You need specialists to do certain tasks, and the domestiques, they are specialists for a special kind of task in professional cycling. It's very important.
It's our job to be, always to be in front and always to be in the dangerous breakaways, the breakaways that will make time on the climbs and such, And the rest of the team is their job to keep us, keep us in front and to chase anybody who's dangerous when we're not with them, So that's basically team strategy.
While the domestiques serve a very important role, it's the star or team leader who amasses the fame, fortune, and adoration of the fans. La Vie Claire, a French team, takes a different approach to the traditional one-star per team philosophy. For this year's Giro, the La Vie Claire team boasts not 1, but 3 riders in the star category. American Greg LeMond is the clear-cut leader and a favorite to win the Giro. But Nicky Ruderman of Switzerland and Steve Bauer of Canada are excellent racers and can't be ignored by the other teams.
The more guys you have as a challenge to the other teams to win the race, then it's going to be tougher for everybody else.
There are other members of a professional racing team who are critical to its success. The team mechanics are literally a pit crew on wheels, following the racers on course, ready in case of a breakdown. After the race, they clean and repair all the bikes. As the mechanics tend to the team's racing machines, the masseur tends to the athlete's aching muscles. At first glance, professional cycling might not look like a team sport, but star status may be short-lived without support from the talented yet inconspicuous domestique.
We all share the prizes equally, so anything I do is beneficial. Even if not directly to me, it is beneficial to me because professionally, you make money that way. So when Greg wins, I win.
Has said that competing at an event like the Giro is like running a marathon every day for 22 days. Well, yesterday's marathon was long and flat, and by Le Mans' own admission, he kind of took it easy because the day before his marathon was the biggest uphill of the Giro so far, and that moved Greg LeMond right into contention for the top spot. Today, not so much a marathon, but a sprint, the fourth and final individual time trial from here in Piacenza, 22 miles up the road, to Cremona. The idea for Greg LeMond, stay close, try to pick up a few seconds if you can on the leaders, but that may be easier said than done. It's been raining on and off, and that's going to make it easier for some than it will for others. For Greg LeMond, get ready for 4 tough final days.
Greg LeMond knew time was running out. With only 5 stages remaining, LeMond sat in 3rd place. More important, he was a distant 2 minutes and 5 seconds behind Visentini. Surprisingly, Francesco Moser, the Italian hero, was almost 4 minutes off the lead. The man LeMond thought toughest to beat was now trying to catch up with him. For the racers, the mountains loomed ahead, and LeMond's skills there were well known. Greg LeMond needed a victory here to ensure possession of the pink jersey on the final day. No doubt one of the best time trialers in the world, Moser knew with a clutch performance in stage 18, the pink jersey would still be within his grasp. Visentini realized with the final mountain stages remaining, he could see the lead slip away. The pressure was building, and Roberto was known to succumb to pressure. But LeMond was determined to beat the Italians in this 22.5-mile race to Cremona. He had to go all out. Moser lived up to his reputation. When he crossed the finish line, his time seemed unbeatable. The day would belong to Francesco, but the Giro still belonged to Visentini. Your thoughts on what happened here in this time trial? You pleased with this or a little disappointed with the times?
Really disappointed. Didn't do as well as I'd expected. I think the man who won it today, Moser, he's fresher because he hasn't raced, he hasn't attacked or anything, and it's made a big difference.
Well, the Moser fan club of Cremona has gotten their wish. The 1984 Giro champion dominating this last individual time trial here. For Greg LeMond, a day of difficulties. He has dropped farther behind Visentini and Cerrone in his pursuit to become the first American to ever win the Giro in 69 years of its running. He may have a chance to make it up in the mountains, but he's afraid the mountains may not be quite big enough. We'll begin to unravel that mystery in stage 19. When you think of Italy, you think of art. From Da Vinci to Ferrari, from paintings to machinery, especially Italian bicycles. Well, for 34 years, Ernesto Colnago has been building racing bicycles, like this one right here that Giuseppe Cerrone is riding in the Giro d'Italia. He builds them in a factory outside of Milan, and Ernesto Colnago's bicycles are sculptures of beauty and balance.
From the haven of one artisan to the haven of another, Cremona, Italy, where Stradivarius made his first violin. The results were in from days 19 and 20. Greg LeMond remained in 4th place overall. Visentini, he seemed unbeatable. The weather turned from good to bad to worse. Times were slow, and everyone was waiting for someone else to make the first move.
Riding in the mountains is a true gauge of any cyclist's ability. There's the excruciating long pull-up, and then the often terrifying descent down. Stage 21 of the Giro is 140 miles of this breathless mountain riding, and for Greg LeMond, this pain is opportunity. LeMond has 60% more lung capacity than the average person, maybe more than that than mine, and at least 100 times more tolerance for suffering. And it's all going to have to come together for him in stage 21 if he hopes to remain in contention for a victory in the Giro.
It was becoming evident that LeMond could not make up enough time to win the race. Laviclaire's lack of experienced riders could not help him. The Domestiques had nothing left, and Steve Bauer, Greg's loyal teammate, had strained an old leg injury. If LeMond had any remaining hopes of wearing the pink jersey, he would have to win it on his own. And without Hinault and an established team, Greg's one-man battle against the armies of Italian cyclists, paced by heroic Roberto Visentini, seemed impossible to win. And in fact, the race was over. LeMond helpless, unable to do anything to change his apparent destiny. But after the stage ended, Greg LeMond was philosophical.
Well, I think my crash and the team time trial performance probably affected the whole outlook for the team. I mean, everybody was not that positive on the race, and maybe it affected my my mental outlook for the race, because when you're already three and a half minutes down to start with, without even really starting to race, it affects you. So, you know, that's the only thing I could say I did wrong. I didn't feel so good in the time trial, but I don't think that would have affected anything had I been placed better overall.
Italian Independence Day. It seemed to be an appropriate end to the 22 days of this beast they call the Giro. Roberto Visentini needed only to stay on his bicycle and finish the race to own the pink jersey for a full year. The Carrera team has insulated Visentini throughout this final stage here on the streets of Murano. In a criterium, the strategy is clear. Stay safely near the front of the pack just to avoid a crash. Keep clear and absorb the adulation of your countrymen. And in the end, Visentini could expect to have his name entered next to the Italian racing legends of Giro's past and stop the public criticism, at least for now. For the Italian people, they have their wish. The winner is homebred. I know it's still summer, but GGP's Roadshow moves from the countryside of Italy to the mountains, yes, the mountains of Argentina, as World Cup skiing starts its 1986-87 season with the men's downhill from Las Linas, Argentina. It'll be coming up later this month, the likes of Doug Lewis and Bill Johnson, the Olympic champion, not to mention the World Cup downhill skiing champion, Peter Wernsberger, and the veteran Peter Mueller. It all happens in the World Cup, and it's coming your way from Argentina later this month, brought to you by GGP. It's World Cup skiing winter in summer. Meanwhile, here at the Giro d'Italia, the final results show a great birthday for Roberto Visentini. He wins it. Cerrone is second, and Greg LeMond finishes fourth. And so the Italians have crowned a new hero, Roberto Visentini. And the cries now of this crowd, Viva Roberto. It was Viva Moser for a long way. How fickle the world of sport. For Greg LeMond, an uphill battle, and in his own words, wasn't uphill enough. But you know, Greg, what really gets me more than anything else, I think it's just the whole spectacle of the Giro.
That's a good choice of words, and I learned a new word here, an Italian word, tifosi. It means the super ardent, exuberant fan, and we're surrounded by thousands of them. There have been millions who have watched this race over the past 22 days, from the start in the south of Italy all the way up here to the north. They don't think these guys are heroes. They think they are gods. It's a real show.
A tremendous event, and it's over. Roberto Visentini is the champion, and this country can kind of go back into hiding from a sports point of view until next year when it starts all over again for 22 madcap days. For Greg Lewis, I'm Barry Tompkins. So long from Verona, Italy. This GGP Sports exclusive has been brought to you by Subaru, inexpensive and built to stay that way. And by Descente Cycling Wear, official supplier to the U.S. cycling team. Descente, it's technology you can wear. This has been a GGP Sports presentation.